Kevin Stefanski is safe. He will be returning in 2025. We'll talk about the offensive coordinator and offensive line coach changes in a sec, but the decision to retain Kevin Stefanski as the head coach of the Cleveland Browns has been met with a lot of different opinions. Some people in favor of it, some people against it. We'll start with you, Bull. Was it the right decision by the Browns to retain Kevin Stefanski as their head coach for 2025?
As folks know that have followed my career since, many of you probably since 2011 or so, when I came to Cleveland, but I've been in this business for 25 and a half years. I first got paid to talk about sports in 1999. So it's been a long time, right? And in those years, those who know me know I'm an extremely opinionated person, and generally, it takes me a lot to change my mind. I have to have a lot of new information before I'm usually willing to change my mind. For 4.5 years, since Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry took over, I was a big Kevin Stefanski guy. I thought he was a very good coach. I believed in him. But as this year weighed on, I lost my faith, a lot of my faith in Kevin Stefanski. I think Kevin Stefanski did a bad job this season, a very bad job this season. I think that Andrew Berry did a bad job leading into the season. They both did a terrible job. The season was a massive disappointment. I had believed before this year that Berry and Stefanski had done enough with this organization that they had raised the floor, if nothing else, and that the days of the Browns being the laughingstock of the league were over. I was wrong. They are the laughingstock, or one of the laughingstocks of the league this year. And it's bad. And there's no excusing what happened this year. Stefanski and Berry did a bad job, plain and simple. For the last couple of weeks, I have been saying that, really more than that Andrew Berry should be fired for the last couple of months. And for the last few weeks, including yesterday, when I gave my end-of-season rant, I still thought Kevin Stefanski should be fired. And for whatever reason, I can't really explain it. I've never made a flip-flop of this degree in my life before that I can think of. But over the last 12, 14 hours or so, I was very introspective about and thinking about what's gotten us to this place. And am I over giving too much importance to this year versus the previous 4 years, which were certainly not perfect? I also spoke to someone yesterday that I really trust who gave me some pertinent information on Kevin Stefanski's ability to have freedom within this organization. And then I listened this morning again to the Kevin Stefanski press conference. And then I listened this morning for the first time to the Andrew Berry press conference. And so here's my flip-flop. After arguing with people yesterday and making the point for the last few weeks that Kevin Stefanski should be fired, I have changed my mind this morning. Now, am I completely convinced that Kevin Stefanski is the right guy for this job? I am not. But I was not completely convinced he was the wrong guy for the job when I advocated for firing him the last few weeks. So rip me if you will. I've got broad shoulders. I can handle it. But I have changed my mind. And I believe it is the right call to stick with Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry, even though they were both hideously bad this past season. I believe in them to a level. I think there is something to be said about consistency and staying the course and not going off it from one disastrous season. Not all of the previous 4 seasons were great, but none of them were disastrous to this level. And so I'm not ready. I thought I was, but I'm not ready just yet to jump off the bandwagon. Now, I may change my mind again next year, depending on how the season goes. And to be honest, I don't have particularly high hopes for next season unless something weird happens. But at least for now, I've changed my mind.
Gee, you can give your crown to Bull on knee-jerk reaction because I don't even think you've flipped that fast.
I said it's the greatest flip-flop in the history of my career.
I didn't see yesterday you're screaming to fire him, and today you're
24 hours.
Wow. I'm saying yes.
With no game, with no nothing.
Nothing happened.
I got one bit of information from a mutual friend of ours.
Okay.
That there was already some I wasn't completely sure about it. And Some of it's just a gut feeling that's changed for me in the last 14 hours.
You're allowed. That's fine.
It happens.
Hey, guess what? Guys running teams change their mind.
It's hard. It's a tough decision.
Guys in charge of owners, GMs, everybody changes their mind.
Yeah.
On things can happen.
Hey, but that's the ultimate flip-flop. There you go.
That's pretty impressive.
Go ahead, guys. What do you think?
Wow. I don't even know where to come
Bush
after.
is stunned. He's stunned, right?
I mean, look, so what was the question again, McNugget?
Should they fire Kevin?
No. He's coming back. Was it the right or wrong decision
Yes.
to bring him back?
Listen, listen, it was the wrong decision. It's very easy. It was the wrong decision, but guess what? He is coming back. I kind of set this up a little bit before, and here's the reason why. You look at that record, 40 and 44 in 5 years. My problem with Kevin Stefanski is this. I got leadership problems with Kevin Stefanski. I got issues with Kevin Stefanski based on the way he carries himself and the way he communicates certain things to his team. I don't like the fact that DTR plays and he doesn't know he's gonna start. I don't like the fact that when players leave here, they got an issue with the coaching staff and how the Browns run their stuff. I don't like the fact that during the season, people who are traditionally guys that don't never say anything like Amari Cooper, guys are now chirping and saying things about what they don't like. I don't like the fact that when things go bad, Kevin Stefanski is the only one still standing here while Alex Van Pelt is fired. Why Dorsey is fired? Why all these other assistant coaches are going out of the building? My thing with Kevin Stefanski is this. I want you to stand on being, if you're going to be a leader of men, you got to stand up and say, I'm running this. At the end of the day, you gave up play calling to Dorsey. Why? You've been calling plays your whole life. Why? Alex Van Pelt, he saw the offense that you were running and was successful. My thing is, as a coach, sometimes you have to stand on principles. If you knew your principles weren't where the organization was, and you knew you couldn't control and had the level of control that you felt you should have had, you should have never signed an extension. You should have said, listen, I'm running it this way because this was successful. And if you guys don't believe in me enough to let me do my job, then I'm not going to sign up. Instead, you switch a bunch of stuff around. And all that happens is when you flip-flop like that, we can flip-flop. It's cool. But you can't flip-flop with guys in the locker room. Because that flip-flopping stands for guys like Myles Garrett saying, well, what are we doing here? You told me we were switching the offense for somebody, then that didn't work. Then Jameis Winston says, I came here to run your offense, but now all of a sudden Dorsey's calling the plays. This is a bunch of inconsistent stuff. As a leader of men, you have to be solid on that. And he hasn't been solid on it. Not to mention the penalties. This is not the first time the penalties have happened. They've been horrible since he's been here with penalties and pre-snap penalties. And then two, and my thing is the quarterback situation. Look, you haven't had one good relationship with a quarterback since you've been here. Who's your relationship with? You didn't build a relationship with Baker. That was toxic. The Deshaun Watson, we already seen how the Deshaun Watson thing works. Jameis Winston is confused. I thought you was calling him DTR. It's like, I didn't even know I was playing to. Now we sitting here with a top 5, top 2 pick. And now you want to revert back to your offense. And I'm like, okay, well, we should have never left your offense if you had any conviction about it. But now we're at a pivotal spot where we might need to draft a quarterback. And you've shown me nothing that says you can coach a quarterback up, you can get the best out of the quarterback, because, by the way, the best out of Baker is not the best what he's doing right now. Let's be clear about that. I get it. Like, we've been here at a point where, guess what? We have not been consistent. We fired other people a lot, but like I tell McNuggets all the time, to be honest with you, Jimmy Haslam, he's a little skittish at this point, but every other person he fired had a cause to be fired. Because you know why? What other jobs have they gotten? Mike Pettin, Eric Mangini, Pat Shermer, Rod Chazinski, Hugh Jackson, all Todd Haley.
He didn't fire Mangini, but the rest, you're right.
But all of those guys, bums. He should have fired them. At the end of the day, they're going to get another opportunity, right? They're going to get a shot. And I'm not going to sit up here every single day, so you should have been fired, I'm not doing that. It's about moving forward and how you get better. But here's the thing. Under no circumstances, Kevin, do you come into the rest of the season, I don't want to hear you mention nobody else's name. When they say, what can you got better? You should be, I need to get better. Well, what we need to fix? We need to fix it. Him and Andrew Berry got to stand up and take them shots. because it's too many times where if you're going to be the last man standing, you got to have the most skin in the game. And this year, you got it. Y'all starting the hot seat at 10.
Hey, a lot of fair points by G. Bush. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not even going to say it's the right or wrong move. Big picture, zooming out real quick, the way players defended Stefanski and kind of came up and vouched for him yesterday in their wrap of the season availabilities, and even Saturday after the game, Miles, Conklin, Batonio, Denzel all came out and said, I don't think Stefanski's the problem. When you compare that to other teams who have fired their coaches, like Chicago, after that Lions debacle, Tyreek Stevenson was asked about their cornerback. What went wrong? And he goes, I don't know, ask the coach. And they asked one of the receivers, I think it was Keenan Allen, what went wrong? He goes, I don't know, it's not on the players. And there's certain changes in the locker room and things you hear from players, especially veteran leaders like that kind of point in the direction of there's no salvaging this. And I didn't get that indication from any of the Browns players that they were completely out on Stefanski, like some other teams have been out on coaches who eventually got fired. So I just wanted to add that into the conversation.
Jason?
To Mike's point, I don't put a lot of faith usually. I don't put a lot of stock in what players say on camera because they lie all the time. They say what they. But I hear what Mike's saying. We have seen sort of a trend of guys subtly throwing coaches onto the bus. That hasn't happened here. In any private conversation I've had with any Browns player, offense or defense, I've never gotten the sense that they felt like Kevin was the problem. And so that's what I go off. And I've had players tell me, guys got to go. No one has said that. I've never thought they should fire Kevin. I said a few weeks ago, if you want to fire him, I'm not going to argue with you.
Of course, there's an argument for it.
Sure, there is, but I don't think they should fire him. And, the only thing I would say is you and Jay were screaming for weeks and months to give up play calling, and so he did. And the guys wanted to change the offense to fit Deshaun, and so they did. That's why they made the changes, and none of them worked. 10 years from now, when we look back at this, we're going to look back at this as it was the failure of Deshaun Watson. It was the collapse of Deshaun Watson. They made a big swing on quarterback, and it didn't work, and it railroaded the entire season. The whole season.
But to give you pushback with that, as professionals, sometimes it's time out for saying, it's one guy, that didn't work. But as men in the locker room, your job, and as a coach, your job is to get the guys ready to play.
Absolutely. And Kevin did not have a good year. Let me make that clear. It was not a good year.
And sometimes you got to say, as a man, come to him, say, listen, the Deshaun thing didn't work. But we got too many good guys in this locker room to play this style of football. That's what I want to see. I don't want to limp to the finish line. My thing is 3 wins Gerard Mayo got fired in 1 year with a rookie quarterback. He had more wins than Kevin Stefanski did. He had 4 wins with a rookie quarterback, no talent. Now, I'm not saying that you fire people based on other things. All I'm just saying is, with this being said, I can't sit here and say this is the referendum on Deshaun Watson when every single person in that organization had a horrible year.
They changed the entire offense to fit Deshaun. That's why they fired AVP. It's why they fired TC McCartney. It's why they brought in Ken Dorsey. We sat here last summer and said, Ken Dorsey, really? This is a terrible hire. Remember that? All summer long we said, this is not a good hire. And look how it turned out. It was not a good hire. Ken Dorsey is not an offensive coordinator. He's not a good offensive coordinator in the NFL. Josh Allen's playing his best football with Dorsey away from him. And yet they still brought him here, and it turned out to be a disaster. Kevin, if you're going to make him the coach, I think what you guys were saying where I agree with is Kevin has been here long enough, and he has, not this year. This year is a bad year for everybody, including Kevin. That everybody's got to wear the noose on this one. But if you go back in past years, Kevin should walk in and say, we're doing this my way. This is my way of doing it. We're going to run the offense I want. We're going to bring in the coaches I want. And we're going to run this offense the way that I see fit. We tried it your way, and it didn't work. Let's go back to doing it this way. And I think you're going to see that with the firing of Ken. Now we'll see who they make offensive coordinator.
And that's what he said, basically, Kevin, yesterday.
And that's what he should say.
And this year's all on him.
It is.
This next season,
yes,
this will be his last if the season's a disaster.
Can I ask you guys a question real quick on that?
Yeah.
Do you think he enters 2025 in the hot seat?
Yes.
Of course.
100%.
Just like he did last.
Yes. I said that yesterday, and you would be shocked by the amount of blowback of people. How can he enter? Because he went 3-14. Of course he's entering next season.
No,
in the hot seat.
But it's I don't want to derail this whole thing. I believe the hinge on this entire Browns offseason is Myles Garrett. That's the hinge on all of this. Yeah. If Myles comes to them and says, I'm out, I will not play another snap for the Cleveland Browns, which Andrew tried to throw water on that today and said
he said he's not
going from
anywhere.
Cleveland to Canton.
Yeah.
We'll see. if they can get Miles in the boat and Miles is on board with whatever they do, the decision on Miles to me will determine how this thing goes. Because if you can't convince Miles to stay and Miles wants to go, this organization goes in one completely different direction.
That's right.
It's now you're trading him for picks and you're blowing the whole thing up. And I think you change the scope of the evaluation of everything.
Totally fair.
And it's also an indictment on Berry and Stefanski.
It is.
Yeah.
Yes.
But if you get Miles back in and now it's gun to the head, you got to win right now, then yeah, he's on the hot seat game one. And everybody is.
And they have to get it right in the draft.
And the unfortunate part about that is how often does that work?
Hey.
When a guy's on the hot seat on game, like now it did last year. Like we all said that about Barry and Kevin going into last year.
That's life. That's life, man.
And,
like,
and it worked. Like somehow it worked.
You got 5 years, right? We gave you, look, we gave you, we've exhausted, do you guys agree? We've exhausted every excuse for Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
All of them are gone.
The excuses are gone.
Yes.
So like, and trust me, and here's what I want. I want to give you the tools to be great.
Yeah.
So
they got to be all in.
So he has to, like, I want him to have control. He should go into that draft room and say, listen, this is what we're going to get. That's how it should be.
I believe he and Berry get along well and work together.
I believe
that
fair?
Too.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So I believe
They're a team.
If they're working in lockstep, I like them operating under pressure because they can't afford not to get this right.
They can't F this up.
But here's the thing, like where you just go, oh man, of all the years, this is not looking like a great quarterback
and maybe
draft.
that's the case.
Yep.
But we don't all that matters is what Andrew Berry and Kevin Stefanski think.
That's it.
And if they believe that whether it's these two guys that have been talked about or maybe this Drew Aller, or, how do you say his last name? Aller, who some people think now might come out even though he said he wasn't. Whoever it is, I'm not saying they have to take a quarterback at 2 because I don't.
The worst thing you could do is take a quarterback at 2 you don't
not
believe
sure
in
about. You better
because
be sure.
you need a
But ultimately, whatever they do, whether it's draft a quarterback at 2, stay at 2 and take another player, or trade down, they have to get it right. And there's going to be nobody next year. Like this year, we said. No more excuses for Watson.
That's exactly
We
it.
said that at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
No more excuses for Watson. Andrew Berry, Kevin Stefanski didn't go into this season on the hot seat. They came off an excellent year.
Right.
This year, it's different. Going into next year, we're all going to be saying, no excuses for Stefanski. He's got to get it done. And even if they don't have a clear quarterback, they got, let's say it looks like a year. Let's say their starting quarterback next year is Kirk Cousins. Okay, I'm not saying they got to win 12 games next year.
They better be
But they better be competitive and in the mix. They can't. If they're like this again next year, it's over for everybody.
But then what's the okay, so let's say they're 8-9.
Yeah.
9-8.
Yes.
What's the long-term plan at quarterback if it's Kirk Cousins? Because Kirk Cousins is not the long-term. And now you've taken yourself out of position to get it. So, you know what I'm saying? There is no great way out
I'm not
of
saying
this.
they should go that way. I'm just saying they can't be the laughing stock of the league again next year.
Here's the thing. That's what they pay Andrew Berry for.
Yes.
It's not going to be easy. It's not always going to be cookie cut. Here's your number one quarterback. You're terrible. Let's draft him and you're good again. No, it doesn't work that way. He's going to have to identify picks that may not be what we think are great. Look, nobody wanted Bo Nix in the first round. Nobody was saying Bo Nix was that dude. Nobody.
Yeah.
And guess what? They found their guy. People looked at Michael. They looked at Penix and said, "That's a reach on Penix." They just gave Kirk Cousins all this money. Guess what? Penix looks like he's doing
too
okay.
early,
It's
especially
too early.
on Penix.
But
so far so good.
But the thing is, whatever they're gonna do, they better be convicted on it, and they better go 1,000% in on what the plan is because that's it. This is it. Listen. We counted down on Baker and Odell and everybody. We didn't count it the whole this year. If you don't get it done, you're done. And we've moved on from a lot of people, and rightfully so. But now you get to this year. It is a really tough needle to thread in saying I need to find a quarterback, but it ain't really one available, and I need to be competitive a little bit too, like this next year. Yes, that's a tough ask, but it is what it is. That's just what the game is at general manager.
And I'm going to keep saying this until somebody picks up the basketball and throws it in my face because you guys are going to get sick of me saying it. Kevin and AB certainly care about next year. I'm not sure ownership does. They're looking at the dome. They are all in on the dome, and they are all in on having a competitive product on the field 27, 28, somewhere in there to generate interest and generate sales.
Well, I don't think one works
into the
against
dome.
the other necessarily.
I don't know that one aligns with the other either. I don't know that. I don't think like we are saying, and I agree with you guys. Next year's the year. I don't know that ownership looks at it. Maybe they do. If I'm trying to build a $2 billion stadium in 2029, I'm worried about 27 and 28 leading into 29. I'm not worried so much about 26.
Right, but if you're going to be good this year, it's more likely you'll be good those years. But I guess it depends on how you do it.
It depends on how you do it. It depends on if it's sustainable or not. If you go the tourniquet route and put Kirk Cousins on this roster to tie off the hemorrhage that you have.
I don't like that idea.
I'm just saying, like, okay, if you go that, let's play that out. You're going to sign Kirk Cousins. Maybe you draft a quarterback in the third round, whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, you win 8 or 9 games next year. All right, what's the plan after that?
Yeah, no. The way
because
the Browns
now you've taken yourself out of position to get one of the top guys.
Yeah.
And now you've got this beautiful dome, which you still are trying to build. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So I don't know that our short-term wants align with ownership's long-term desires.
The Browns won in an unsustainable way last year. That was obvious. There were too many people that thought.
But we all thought Deshaun would come back and be okay, so it didn't seem unsustainable at the time.
I mean, we hoped he'd be okay. Yeah.
Here's the thing. I know the Haslam's with their stadium or whatever, but listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, man. Consumer habits change. I got a team over that's 30-4, 31-4, rocking and rolling, good young team. Dudes do what they supposed to. They look like it would have a championship window. I'm not trying to pay attention to y'all. Y'all can do the dome stuff all you want, but don't get it twisted. People will tune you out. You're right. Like, you got an opportunity. People is pissed off this year. A lot of people are at the way things have been moving. It got to the point when covering the Browns all year, it was a task. It was like, I'm like, bro, this is messing with my mental health. Like, I don't feel like talking about y'all 24 hours a day. And so, yes, you want the dome, and that's your focus. But I'm telling y'all something right now, man. You can't keep putting that stuff on the field and fleecing these folks and seeing 3-4 wins, and then you sitting up there talking about we running it back. No.
I would say this though, G. People's habits don't change quickly. They will slowly over time. But fans are pissed. That's not the worst thing. The worst thing for a team is when fans don't care.
Right.
And we're not there.
We ain't there yet.
Fans are pissed. It's not that they don't care.